part 29 of Revealing John's Truthful Words. And as you can see, I'm starting at chapter 19, verse 17. We left off with Pilate ordered that Jesus is to be crucified. So they took Jesus away bearing a cross. It was his own cross, but bearing a cross means the same thing. To a place, now I put by his house because I know what the text is telling us in all the other verses. They got it called a place of the skull, which called in Hebrew this here word. But the only thing is the events of what is witnessed when he dies has to be a place by his house. It was actually on the road that he came into Jerusalem as he ascended, or somewhere that within that. They had to be able to see his house from there because they seen the blocks or the roof of the house caved in when he passed away. And there's other reasons, but that is the main one. So where they crucified him with two other males, one on each side of Jesus, either side, each side, so kind of same thing. Pilate had them write an inscription. Pilate wrote an inscription. Pilate don't need to, he's the governor. He doesn't do those type of things. So Pilate had them write an inscription to put on the cross. And it read, Jesus, the King for Jews. Here, these verses aren't needed, this first group, because if we just go from this point here, they're going to crucify Jesus because they're going to crucify two beside him, one on each side. The soldiers that crucified Jesus. Okay, that sounds like it's there. This text in between, therefore this inscription and many of Jews read, placed where Jesus crucified near the city. Now here it's near the city, which is more correct, and written in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek. So it's just not just the one text. They didn't write them in each of these languages. They were for the Hebrew people. The Hebrew, they would have been just wrote in Roman language, and everybody would have known what was going on. Or the Romans wrote it in Hebrew for the Hebrews to understand. So, not the chief priest. Chief priest, okay, the tribe's priest of the Jews were saying Pilate did not write King of the Jews. Well, they're telling him not to write the King of the Jews. And he said, I am King of the Jews. Well, that's not true either. So he wouldn't have worried about anything. He's going to have him crucified just right above it, and kind of they took off to crucify him. Pilate answered, what I have written, I have written. Well, he isn't going to, when you read the story, this really doesn't have room to take place. Because the way they were accusing him, that he said he was the King of the Jews. And Jesus, and it says, he said, I am the King of Jews. Not written King of the Jews. They wanted written, I am King of the Jews. It doesn't matter. It didn't take place. We already know what's going on. He had the inscription put on the cross. It read, Jesus, the King for Jews. Okay, The soldiers that crucified Jesus kept his robe. Now, in this story, it's his purple robe that he's wearing, made of parts. Well, this is not a robe, would have been made of linen dyed purple. So, um, this, they aren't going to divide something up into pieces. Made in 4 parts for every soldier. The tunic, now the tunic seamlessly woven was in one piece. It's not, he's not going to wear a Roman clothing. For the simple fact he's Hebrew. He's following the traditions of Hebrew since Adam and Eve. They were ram hides. They agreed with one another, not that they said to one another, but they agreed to cast dice for it, to decide whose it would be, that the scripture might be fulfilled. I get a kick out of every time that they put that in there, but they divided my outer garments among them, my clothing they cast lots. No. The soldiers that crucified Jesus kept his robe and agreed with one another to cast dice for it. I'll add extra words later, but it's cleaned up. It's going to be like that. As their soldiers, as the, I have to use the word there for soldiers, meaning it was the Roman soldiers. I just didn't want anybody to be guessing at whose soldiers were standing guard over the cross. So I'm using the word there. It just reinforces, but don't have to have much explanation. We're standing or we're guarding the crosses. Not just his, but the others. So now we know that that's what they used to do until they died, was to guard them from people trying to help them. His father and mother. Okay, now I've added his father here, because there is nowhere in the text that says Joseph died, and yet at the beginning of his favorable year of the Lord, when he's in Nazareth, they said, "Is he?" We know his father, so his father is alive. So I'm adding him here in the text, and mother and his mother's sister, and I'm going to get rid of Mary, who was Cyclops, and then what was that? Clopas. Anyways, doesn't matter. And his mother's sister, Magdalene, came to Jesus. Came to Jesus. Why do I have that there? Oh, it's the three. It's the group of them. What did they do? And when the text is here, they had to come. They had to. They had. There seemed like there was a procession of people walking before them. So this is what I'm making sure that, like they came to their turn before it. And when Jesus saw his father, mother, and disciples, now it doesn't have anything to do with Mary, with Magdalene. So this story about his mother's sister being Magdalene might not make the end cut. She just doesn't fit in anywhere here, truthfully. When Jesus saw his father, mother, and disciples, whom he was standing by, he said, "Father, mother, look, they are my disciples." Then he said to his disciples, "Look at my mother, look at my father and mother." which really, I'm trying to see why he's doing this and why he would say these. Where's the rest of the words? Behold, they are, so your sons. But that's not true. Um, Jesus wouldn't designate them as their sons. But what I've got them doing here is uh, they would have known me who's disciples and who aren't. So this, like I said, John is so choppy and he can't really come up with really truthful, true verses. Maybe I should have got rid of all this to begin with. And he said to his disciples, look at my father and mother. Um, Father and mother, look, they are my disciples. And he said to his disciples, look after. Look after. Now it's got some the semblance of what's actually Jesus is saying here. Look after my father and mother. Okay, that's better. That at least has something kind of resemblance of making sense out of these verses, because mm, are your son disciples? Let me see, 26, 19, 26. Boy, did I go through a lot of text here, or I got it wrong when I tried to set this up. It's be 19. We go to here. Okay. Okay, I want to see something. Here, I should have mentioned this text here. I spotted over here. I guess I didn't read this. And from that hour, the disciples took her into his own household. Which disciple was it? Was it just one? He said to a disciple, he said to his disciple, they had to add the S, because they were talking about just one disciple who's going to help Mary in the household. No, they had to travel all the way back to Galilee, so this would not have been true. In fact, the story is going to probably not have her in her household. It's not there in Jerusalem. Um, Actually, when I say look after my father and mother, I guess um, it to keep watch, I guess, or after you pass away, you'd want somebody to keep an eye on your parents. So it's kind of that type of look after, because Jesus is only 25 here, and his parents were young when they had Jesus, when Jesus was born. So let's say they were 15 at that time. So that makes them 40. That isn't something to mean to look after them because they're elderly or they're sick. So just referring to look after, or keep an eye on them after I'm gone, I guess is the way the intent here has to be in these, when I'm correcting the text. Well, but from that hour the disciple took her into his own household, and that would be because I've added the word father many times, like she's by herself. That's not true. We have, if Jesus' fathers died, they would have mentioned it, and it's not, that's not so. So we have verses that state he was still alive at the beginning of his favorable years, so he would still be alive after this. Jesus, knowing all things he had already accomplished in order that the scriptures might be fulfilled again, said, I am thirsty. Well, after this, Jesus said, I am thirsty. Don't need to know all this. That isn't, we already know that Jesus has fulfilled all the prophecies from our Creator. And they had a jar full of sour wine. They wouldn't have had, they don't keep wine in jars. They would have kept it in a skin to make it portable, of water, not wine. Nobody is carrying around wine with them at a crucifixion. Okay, plain and simple. But a skin of water, that is more acceptable. So they put some on a cloth, not a sponge, but on a cloth, because where would they got the sponge? But to tear off a piece of their clothing, which someone had cloth, and put it on a branch and then up to his mouth. That's more a branch of hops. No, this is, I don't think hops grows on trees or has actually a branch. Have to look that up afterwards, but don't need the word hops, but do need the word branch to put it on, and then it is then up to his mouth. Then Jesus sucked some water, not wine, but sucked some water, and he said, my body is finished. Because here, if he sucked on sour wine, he would have reacted to the wine, but he didn't. So here we have sucked on some water and then said, my body is finished. Not that it is finished. Jesus would not refer to himself, it is finished, except as if he was talking about what he was to do. I'm going to leave it as my body is finished. Then his head bowed, just moving the word bowed down here, and died. And not that he gave up his spirit. You can't tell your soul to give up. Your soul's going to be released after the body dies. So here I've got it that not that he gave up his spirit. He just died. He bowed his head and died. Because it was the day for our sacrificing a ram, not preparation day, sacrificing for a ram, their dead bodies were not to remain on their crosses. Because it's a celebration, this extra rule was that their bodies needed to be taken down, because Hebrews don't work on these days. They're starting after twilight for 8 days. So this would have been something that the bodies were not to remain on their cross. Not to remain on the crosses, meaning that they were all Hebrews that died on the cross. And was a high day. It was a holy day, which means it was, well, actually it was, because their holiest day is starting at twilight, which is the first day of their year. So I can't really leave that in and put all that. They would just know, you would just know by the subject that the ram is sacrificing. So while Jesus was dying, uh, their body was dying on the cross, the people that were gathered for the Passover event were making their meal for that evening or twilight. So it doesn't give us a time that Jesus' body dies, but it does say they asked Pilate that his body be taken to their tombs, not be just that they might uh, be taken away. This would be more than just one. Pilate. Now, I guess breaking their legs, I don't know what that has to do with furthering along their death, but I don't see that as being part of the ritual of checking them for being dead. We know the other story is they pierced Jesus's left side, and out came blood and water, and that clear fluid actually comes from the spleen from not releasing his seed ever from his body. Now, they asked Pilate that his body be taken to their tombs. So, like I said, there's going to be a lot more information on why these words are here, but we know that they're going to the tombs to bury his, take his body. So it has to be about Jesus and not all three of them. So now it comes to the text here. So he sent his guard. This would be Pontius sending his guard to know if Jesus was dead. All this has to be added. The soldiers, let me see here. This is 32, so when you get to 31, get the text up. Be shown. The soldiers therefore came and broke the legs of the first man, and the other was crucified. Okay, now, see, this of them going and asking Pilate that their legs might be broken, that's, and might be taken away. They're when they're dead, they're removed. Until then, they can't be removed. So, and I don't see that hurrying up them to die. So, yeah, this is all, when you see it, what I've got here, here, so he sent his guard to know if Jesus was dead, because it has to be for Pilate to know what was going on. They asked Pilate for the body to be taken from the tomb. So Pilate has to know that the body is dead, completely dead, before removed. So he has to send a guard to know if Jesus is dead. So that's just the reasoning why Pilate would even do any of this. He wouldn't be saying, "Why do I need to break their legs?" I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Not to me now, and not to Pilate at that time. And as he came to Jesus, okay, because he's not going to be breaking legs, so that's all done with. That text is not there. And when he looked to see if he was dead already, when he saw he was already dead, well, he had to look at him to see if he was dead, I guess. And I guess that would be to see if he's got facial expressions, whether he's still in pain or not. So to look to see if he was dead, and then kind of like, okay, he doesn't look like he's alive. So what he does here And then the guard pierced his left side with a spear, and from there came out blood and water. And I just explained what the water was. So it's very important that you know that the spleen fills up with a clear fluid if you never release your seed from your body. So at 25, there would have been quite a bit of clear water at that time. So they called it water because it was clear. Okay, so that's why we can say what we know. Um, this knowledge is only known among the Taoists at this time, because even like right now, when I tell people this, they said, "Where's your proof?" Because um, this is something that um, there aren't many people living to be virgins without releasing their seed until the age of 25. But the object is that when you do not release your seed from your body, that's what's going to happen. Whether we have the same amount of water that Jesus had when he was 25, I don't know. There's not enough there. I will be looking at my x-rays a little bit more often, I guess, just to be able to say something to you. But he pierced his left side because I had to have the word left here because the spleen is on the left side. So he didn't drink enough water from that cloth to be in his stomach yet, to be on the right side. So the guard pierced his left side with a spear. It needs a spear here. Needs a. Oops, how come the text is not? Okay. I don't know. Keyboard's a little bit far away. I can't really see it. I must have pushed a different button. But there came out blood and water. Now we can go to the next verses here. Us who saw this are witnesses too. Let's see, his true witnessing, he who knows that he was telling the truth so that you may believe. That isn't the witnessing. The witnessing is about they witnessed that he pierced his left side. Now it came blood and water. Okay. So us who saw this, the writer there, having witnessed what's going on, are witnesses to the, let's see, I got prophecy down way down. Here's what I'm trying to connect it to. Not one bone will be broken as they will look upon him who they have pierced. Now, I can see why they're trying to add break his leg, but break his leg makes no sense to further the death or to instantly kill them, to have them all removed. But the object here is the prophecy from our Creator, not a bone broken as they looked, but as they looked at him whom they pierced. And they were the witnesses to that verse. So that's what they're witnessing, are witnesses to the prophecy. Okay. Again, another scripture. Well, here again might be fulfilled. This is just, they may believe. This is not, it's not good language here. You're already, anyways, before I get too far off track again, after this, not these things, but after this, Joseph, now this says of Armenius being a disciple. He was not ever a disciple. You can become a follower of Jesus, but you cannot be a disciple. for Jesus, not of Jesus, but for Jesus. And here, if we get rid of this, then we have it. It is his father. That's the Joseph we would be talking about. So let's see. Up here, yeah, it was they asked Pilate. So who was there at that time would have been Jesus' father, Mary, her sister, and then it would have been the disciples. So they went to ask for the body of Jesus. And I don't think all of them would be able to get in, but I'm sure if Joseph saying, Pilate had my son crucified, I would like to have him buried as the tradition, because we don't bury people after twilight tonight because it's not permitted under our way of life to have um, a body just hanging there, um, especially on the first day, because everybody is to partake then of the meal. So they would have been allowed permission to walk in and ask Pilate. I can just see that being done by the family members throughout all this time that Pilate, or even the governor who was governor of all three regions before, this would have been acceptable to them. And it would be family members to do this. So here I'm going to just leave Joseph, and it's going to be Joseph, his father. So after this, Joseph and the disciples for Jesus, they didn't do it in fear or in secret that he might take away the body of Jesus. They went there to ask to take it away. And Pilate, according to this, granted them permission. He most likely knew that that was going to happen, so when they came, that's what happened. He gave them permission, and they removed his body. That took it away, but they removed it off the cross, because down here, so they took his body, and with linen, they wrapped the body with spices. Okay, now let me see here. Why am I getting rid of Nicodemus came, who was also had first come to Jesus in the night bearing a mixture, had also had first come to him at night bringing a mixture of myrrh, aloe, and 100 pounds weight. Like this older gentleman was carrying around 100 pounds of this stuff. No, this is just stupid talk. So we know that's not truthful. So his father and the disciples, they took his body, not the body of Jesus, but his body. They might have said it that way at their time. I'm just saying it this way, and we understand that it's his body, because I'm coloring the words to make sure who's who when you read the text. Bound it with cloth, not linen. Cloths. Linen is too expensive of a item, and that wouldn't have been what his father would have afforded, or the disciples would have been able to say, let's go to the market and you guys go there while we're going to, some of us are going to Pilate and grab what's needed to wrap his body. And it was not a wrapping, it was wrapped, the body, and with spices all around the body, for they had laid the body on the tomb. Now, I had to add all this because it doesn't say that they went to the tomb yet. And when they took the body, what they do, there's a video in the description below. I made sure it's one of the ones that are numbered, and it talks about the tombs and why they do this. I don't want to get into that right now because I need to clean the get through with this right here before I stop this video. But make sure you get the video because they did all these spices to keep the bugs and animals away. Burial custom of the Jews. Uh, the place where he was crucified, there was a garden in the garden, a new tomb, which no one had ever laid. Therefore, on account of Jewish day of preparation, because the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there. No, the tomb would have been built there, and the tomb is actually got tombs in it. The tomb is where they had many tombs. So they would have had this place as not new built because they used it over and over. They placed the bodies there to make sure that death has actually happened. Watch the video, but the object is this isn't their custom. It was their knowledge that they knew that sometimes the body would appear dead, but the body would reawaken if they had buried it underground. So they had placed it on a tomb. So there are many tombs around there because there was a graveyard near there for years. So this was their practice, was to first there, and then after 3 or 4 days, take the body out and then bury it. But it was by the place where he was crucified is this tomb area. So now on the first day of the week, now you notice how they haven't added the word day, the first of the week. Now I had to add the first week because that's what our Creator designated as when he led them out. This is the first day of your year, which would summer solstice. So this was on the first day of the first week, to be correctly written by the scribe who's writing here. This is still the Passover day. That's the first day of their week. Mary and Magdalene, see how they left it as one, like Mary Magdalene come there by herself. Well, she wouldn't have come there by herself because Mary would have been the one she would have been consoling or a sister. So the thing here is she wouldn't leave on her own. So they went together, went to the tomb. Mary and Magdalene went early to the tombs while it was still morning. They saw not the stone, but the rolling stone. Because they need to get in and out because there's many bodies, there has to be a large enough stone that can, or a block of wood, but right now it's a rolling stone, heavy enough to where an animal can't break in and get to the bodies. So this rolling stone, so they can go back and forth and get in and out, is why I'm using it as a rolling stone. I guess that might be able to be changed later to a large piece of wood. But the object is, they saw the rolling stone already moved away from the tombs because there's many tombs in there, rolled away from the tomb. Should I leave the word just tomb or tombs? I like it like this right now. So they took his body, and with cloths they wrapped the body, and with spices all around the body, where they had laid, and with spices all around the body, where they had laid the body on the tomb. Yes, it would be tombs as the entrance to the tombs, and his body was on a tomb. Now, on the first day of the first week, Mary and Magdalene went early to the tombs. While it was still morning, they saw the rolling stone move away from the tombs. Okay, even this needs more editing and more cleaning up, because this sentence actually needs to be shifted around a little bit more. For example, they took the body and wrapped cloths. And with cloth, they wrapped the body. It would be, and with cloths, they wrapped the body. Then it would be here. Then they laid the body on a tomb and laid spices all around the body. Let's see. This doesn't need to be added. This is yellow that gets moved. That all the yellow is getting moved down here, and I had to add this word here. And laid spices around the body. That's how a lot of some of these sentences I've been going through really do need a lot of re-editing. And I'm going to do that in the next, or in a video coming up pretty soon that puts all the verses together so I can look at story after story. Because sometimes when I'm doing this, verses belong with the story above it and not with it. So I'm going to put all of them together, and then I'm going to try to clean them up like this text here, and hopefully get even a better understanding of the text and the truth of the text. So what I did is I'm going to move all this down here and then edit it right now. And it might not be reading perfect because I'm going to end this video here, but the object is that you got to see me why I changed even more here. And that would have been the first verse that actually had text to it that we could add. Yeah, but that was mainly me not doing the right. I added so much of the words here that needed correcting. Okay. I guess I should have done that. I didn't know that when I did the video, so I didn't pre-read this one. So, but now it does read correct, in the correct order. They took his body, and with cloths they wrapped the body, then laid the body on a tomb and laid spices all around the body. But the story doesn't tell them that the guards came, and anyways, just partials of this text is in Matthew, not or in John. Very, very oddly written for the text is supposed to give us what you would think is the correct order of things. And not in John.